This is John Murphy at Murtech.com with your daily news update. Okay, here we are on May the 1st already in the year of the Lord 2026. And I've got some great information for you, so let me go ahead and click Murtech on Rumble. Take us over here to my Rumble channel. This is the video that we're watching tonight, episode 1904, my live stream. Let's jump into that. Pause that. Hi, Debbie BS. How you doing? Let me close that out for right now. I'll get back to you, Debbie. Click the Show More button to expand out the description box. We have information from ACLJ, Sekulow, American Center for Law and Justice, Benny Johnson, Devory, Darkins, and Wendy Bell Radio. But before we get into that, I do have some shout-outs to give from Sophia, 550, just started following my channel. Anthony Alve just started following my channel. Myron54 just started following my channel. Mo Party 1 just started following my channel. Carl Ben J just started following my channel. P Year Out just started following my channel. T Mitchell 3 just started following my channel. A lot of people follow my channel today. Kaysen Hugh 78 just started following my channel, and Golfer 19 just started following my channel. So thank you very much, folks, for following my channel. I greatly appreciate that. I hope you're tuned in, and I hope you enjoy the content. Okay, Debbie BS reposted my episode 1903. Cam's Coffee Talk reposted my extra 686A. Uncloudy Debbie BS Cottonball 31 commented on my episode 1903. Debbie BS commented on my extra 685B and 685C. Debbie BS commented on my extra 686A. Debbie BS and Kyson Hugh 78 commented on my extra 686B. And Debbie BS commented on my extra 686C. So thank you very much, folks, for reposting my videos and for your comments. I enjoy reading your feedback, and I certainly appreciate your support. So let me give this a thumbs up. Boom. There you go. All righty. All right, let's jump into this. American Center for Law and Justice, Sekulow, confirmed DOJ report reveals shocking attacks. Okay, well, let's see what that's all about.
The ACLJ is in the news, the breaking news, as the DOJ has released a report on eradicating anti-Christian bias.
With attachments, it's 565 pages
1,100
released
footnotes
by the Department of Justice. This is a report that's pursuant to the executive order that the president put out when he first came into office, 14202, which was tasking the Department of Justice to lead this task force, to find out, to look into what was going on during the Biden administration, during those years where we were calling it out. We were showing people this is systematic bias against Christians, against conservatives, by the heavy hand of the Biden administration. So we looked at this. We obviously were calling it out. We obviously were pleading with the Biden administration many times through letters, through lawsuits, saying, stop this bias that you have against people of faith. Well, now, when the Trump administration came to office, the president said, I want you to go through and find it. Find all this bias. You have all the documents, DOJ. Lead this task force against the entire executive branch and root this out.
We've talked about this for a number of years, but now again, there's a full report from the current Department of Justice. You should take this as a win, but it does confirm all of our suspicions that this was happening.
And when you get a report from the DOJ confirming what we have seen, what we have been advocating for our clients, not just speaking it out into the ether, with our attorneys that work very hard daily to fight for the rights of these clients. When you have a DOJ report that is pursuant to an executive order from the President of the United States, that becomes something you use later. It's a tool in your tool set when you go forward, because it's not just that they're confirming that it was systematic and pervasive this anti-Christian bias. The ACLJ's work in our clients, in our cases, are referenced more than 35 times in this hundreds of pages report.
And we're talking about directly referencing the work of the ACLJ. When you were talking about this document that was released, this is what we've been doing on the daily. This is what a lot of our team has been focused on, because we know, as I said, is it any sort of surprise when you have, street preachers getting arrested, all of these things, Bible clubs being shut down, things that have not been a part of the news cycle, have not been part of the culture for decades because of the original work of the ACLJ. Why? Because you had a Department of Justice, you had an FBI, you had a administration who was weaponizing themselves against Christians and Christian groups. And now we have the documentation to prove it. And again, you had probably a president of the United States at the time who was unaware that some of this was going on, because he had a big team of people who were pulling on all the strings and they were working behind the scenes and were far, far leftists who were targeting these people. And it's really sad that it really was the case, that a lot of those, what probably people told you were conspiracy theories, were true. But now you have a different administration who has put in this task force to take care of it.
And it goes into it when you start to look at some of the work that the ACLJ was fighting. Remember when we saw at the Smithsonian during the March for Life and also at the National Archives, this pattern where they were targeting Christians, targeting pro-life individuals that were visiting these sites in DC. We got big wins from that, but that is even a part of this entire issue. It's showing that these weren't one-offs. This was a culture that was pervasive within the Biden administration. And it wasn't just, we want to push our liberal policies. It was that there was an anti-Christian bias that was real, systemic, and pervasive. It also shows there was a hospital worker in Vermont that was forced to perform abortions against her faith. We filed a complaint with the HHS under the first Trump administration, 2018. It went so far as the Department of Justice, because of that complaint, was filing a lawsuit against University of Vermont Medical Center because they were violating someone's faith. And then what did you see happen? As soon as the administration changed and it was a different Department of Justice, they abandoned that lawsuit. And they even were taking information.
Things are political and being run in a political way. Look, on either side here, when you start dropping lawsuits because you're like, now as a Department of Justice, it's going to feel differently.
And what was one of the motivating factors? They got a letter from the law firm representing the University Medical Center that went after the ACLJ and said, look, their chief counsel, he happened to represent the president. So maybe don't listen to what his group has to say. And then other things like, they're even their statements on their website that they are a religious organization. That was their rationale. The law firm representing the medical center for the Biden DOJ to drop the complaint and just let it go. All of these things show it isn't because they know that they're on the right side of the law. It's because the Biden administration didn't like you if you were a Christian.
Right.
Not only are they showing all the things that happen, but they have also changed prior guidance. They've rescinded things that the Biden administration put in place as, here's how you do your job.
Here's how things went wrong
that were guidances that had an anti-Christian bias. So they were able to take those things out of place across 17 different agencies, as well as issuing new guidance that ensures that people's First Amendment, their right to their belief, to their speech, these things are upheld. Now, I also want to bring this up as well, because people say, well, how can it help the ACLJ? In a lot of ways. Because listen to this. This is anti-Christian bias in a broader context. Though this report primarily focuses on anti-Christian bias propagated by the federal government during the Biden administration, Christians and other people of faith also face bias from state and local governments and the private sector. With limited interference from the Biden administration, and sometimes with its tacit support, state governments and private entities have implemented numerous policies that harm people of faith. What we see here is it goes to a lot of the cases that are then cited from the ACLJ in this report are facilities that receive federal funding, senior centers that were saying you can't have a Bible study here. Those issues we talk about on this show were actually cited by the Department of Justice as pointing to a broader bias against people of faith. So, one, those cases that you hear about and you think that may not pertain to me, it does, because even here, it shows that our work is getting noticed and is a broader pattern. But beyond that, we can then take this report when we send our demand letters, when their work is saying you can't have your Bible visible. Well, that violates federal law and workplace protections. Also, here's the DOJ's report showing how this is anti-Christian bias. We can cite the Department of Justice, and it gives even more tools for us to use when these violations are happening.
All right, folks, there you have it. Just another example of how the Biden administration just lawfare. What they're saying against Trump, his lawfare, he's going after people that actually broke the freaking law. The Biden administration are going after people that were Christians. Amazing, utterly amazing. And the mainstream media is just carrying their water for them and lying through their teeth. Let me click on this Rumble link here, folks, and show you that this video does come from American Center for Law and Justice. This is the video I shared with you. I've given them a thumbs up. I hope you do the same thing for me. All right, let's jump back here and did a little chat in there with Debbie BS. If you don't mind, folks, if you could give me some chats, I would greatly appreciate it. Okay, Benny Johnson, J.D. Vance confirms the FBI is targeting Tim Walz because he broke the freaking law. For mass Somali fraud, it's over. Yeah, he's targeting Tim Walz, and they're calling that lawfare. But he was involved in billions of dollars of fraud. Oh, well, that's okay because he's a Democrat. Give me a freaking break. Okay, let's see what this is all about.
Perhaps you'll recall the J.D. Vance Jim Halpert stare that went viral during the debate with Tim Walz. This is the look that gave us the first J.D. Vance set of memes that went viral online, and certainly wouldn't be the last. The memes have, of course, accelerated out of control and into abject hilarity, and I love all of them. I know that J.D. Vance loves all of them. J.D. Vance dressed as his own meme for Halloween, so way to go. All of us professionals can only dream of having the arc that J.D. Vance is having right now, as he's able to go from this look during the debate with Tim Walz to putting Tim Walz under investigation for being a criminal fraudster, for accelerating what J.D. Vance told me just a couple of weeks ago was certainly an operation with Democrat officials to help Somalis who just got here, right, figure out a way to defraud the system. J.D. Vance told us directly that this is something that he thinks is architected by the Democrats of the state. And we know this because, well, Ilhan Omar wrote the Meals Act. And please don't glaze over, like it's really not that hard to see how this all worked, how the fraud worked. Ilhan Omar writes the Meals Act during COVID to reduce down to zero all federal regulatory oversight of meals programs. Then immediately her fraudster friends Somalis start running fraudulent meals programs for a bunch of non-existent ghost children and charging the federal government millions of dollars. It's called the Feeding Our Future scam. So this is one hand feeding the other. Who gives Ilhan Omar these ideas? Who tells the Somali fraudsters to take advantage of these loopholes? I mean, a lot of them don't speak English. They haven't been here that long. This is an operation. And of course, this is why Ilhan Omar is hiding money and laundering money in these fake businesses, because she's getting a cut, right? That's what's going on here. And J.D. Vance is calling it out and putting the governor of the state, Tim Walz, who without a doubt knew this was happening and benefited from it, under investigation. Let's hear it.
Regardless of whether there was criminal wrongdoing on behalf of the governor, of course, like I said, well, we're going to let the law make those determinations. We know that he turned a blind eye towards this. I mean, you have people, Will, who came into this country many of them illegally, and 6 months later they're driving Mercedes despite the fact that they don't have a job. That doesn't happen without some defrauding of the American taxpayer. The fact that they turned a blind eye towards it for so long is a scandal. We're also going to find out whether it was criminal.
Let's stay on the note of accountability for one more second.
But regardless of...
So here we go. JD Vance has confirmed they are actively investigating Tim Walz' criminal investigation, the massive fraud in Minnesota. This was on an interview with Will Kane on Fox News. Will there be accountability for Tim Walz and Keith Ellison for the fraud that occurred under their watch? Again, it is critical to know that these guys, I mean, what I hate to go back to Seinfeld. This is literally my favorite show that I will have for the rest of my life. So if you're watching this channel, expect some Seinfeld references. You know, like, my George ain't smart enough to hatch an operation like this. I'm paraphrasing George Costanza's father, saying that his kid's just too dumb to come up with some type of fraudulent scheme in one of the Seinfeld episodes. And so are these Somalis. The Somalis there's a system that somebody has to teach them about fake daycares, fake child services, fake hospice. This entire ecosystem of fraudulence off the backs of the American taxpayer, somebody has to roadmap that for them. And it needs to be obviously somebody who has the power of the purse and of the government and understands these things. Keith Ellison is a communist. Tim Walz is a communist. And boy, it'd be nice to see.
You mentioned complicity, and you analogized the governor to an arsonist. Do you expect some type of accountability beyond political, some type of accountability for Attorney General Ellison or Governor Walz?
Well, we have to follow the law where it leads. And what we know is that there were multiple authorities who were turning a blind eye.
So that clip includes the actual question. So JD Vance flames Tim Walz for taking credits of the Somali raids. So there were also, for all those who say nothing ever happened, Somali raids
Tim Walz of
this
Minnesota
week
has claimed some credit for the fraud crackdown in Minnesota. Is there credit to be deserved for the governor?
No, not at all, Will. This is like the arsonist trying to claim credit for the work of the fire department, because Tim Walz let this fraud happen under his watch. Whether he was complicit in it directly himself or just turned a blind eye towards it, we really did not get much help at all from the governor's office. Where we did actually get some help was from some state, local law enforcement officers who we assigned to the federal task force because the state government wasn't doing anything. So all credit goes to people on the ground, the federal officers, the state officers who are working to uncover this fraud. The best part about this for me, Will, is you have, when the president empowered his entire government to go after this fraud issue, I had this question to the Department of Justice. These investigations take a long time. So I was asking myself, how quickly can we start getting into some real investigatory work, court-issued warrants, actually going door to door and finding out what's going on? People told me it would take at least 6 months. We've gone from Nick Shirley's video about the Minneapolis fraud schemes to active, judges issuing warrants for this investigation in a matter of 3 months. We've got 280 law enforcement officers working on this problem. We really have the most accelerated, aggressive anti-fraud operation that we've ever seen from the federal government. And again, it's because the President of the United States empowered his team to go after this.
I saw it, man. I was there at their first little fraud meeting at the White House. This is where we interviewed JD Vance and asked him about this. Vance blasts Tim Walz for taking credit for turning a blind eye to scammers. And I would argue, without question, actually, clearly supporting the scammer. They have to. This is how it works in California. This is how it works in these blue states. They're the ones that are getting the benefit from the scams because they're the ones getting the Democrat votes. So please put him under investigation as quickly as possible. Tim Walz should resign over the fraud, says JD Vance previously at the White House. And JD Vance previously told us that this is something that is going to potentially lead to higher powers. It's not just the low-level Somali thugs and criminal aliens and migrants that are guilty of this, it is actually the higher ups that architect all of this for them. Journalism that creates real world change. Boom. For months, the mainstream media and political tried to debunk the fraud scandal in Minnesota. Guess what? It's all true. Exposed them all, says Nick Shirley, who deserves, of course, the lion's share of the credit for blowing the lid off of this story, the power of independent media. Thank you for supporting us. Here's that question to JD Vance, ladies and gentlemen, about the fraud in Minnesota. Doing our part. See you. Well, what people need to see, I think that the fraud has been laid bare. We've all seen the Leering Center, right?
Correct.
The Leering Center is not an actual daycare.
No.
The Leering Center was fraud, right? And we've seen the hospice fraud in California. And so I think it's been demonstrated that this is a problem. What people need to see now is like arrests,
yes,
right?
100%.
Deportations. They need to see that the federal government, the gears of justice grind against these people and they're not allowed to just continue.
Yes. So let me give you an example, something I just talked about upstairs, but I think it's worth reiterating for your viewers. So you take a program that exists within Medicaid to help autistic children get the resources that they need. So you have a Somalian fraudster in suburban Minneapolis who says that they have 3 kids who are autistic, and maybe they don't even have 3 kids, and they certainly don't have 3 kids who are autistic. So it takes money away from the American citizens who need these services. It defrauds the taxpayer. And you're absolutely right that the thing that we need to do is get real justice. So, you know, something I learned just the past couple of months, I had no idea that we do not prosecute fraud in this country if it's under $1.5 million per year. Okay? So think about that. Think of all the people who are $1.5 million a year. This is not chump change. That is meaningful money. And by the way, sometimes by prosecuting the lower level people, you get to the higher level people who are collecting, you know, who have sort of the conspiracy to commit fraud against the American people. So one of the things that we're trying to do with this task force is commit the Department of Justice to investigating all fraud and actually going after the people who are doing it at the small scale of $1.4 million, but also actually looking at the big conspiracies that are out there. Because, Benny, I don't know about you, but I do not believe that what happened with the Somalian immigrant community in Minnesota, I don't think that happens without some cooperation from politicians, without other people looking the other way, or maybe even being in the fraud themselves.
Oh, pretty amazing. They don't even prosecute it if it's less than $1.5 million a year. So you can steal $1.5 million, $1,500,000. You can steal that from the government, from the taxpayers, and oh, that's okay. Yet they'll come after you if you owe $500 on your taxes. Okay? If you miscalculated and you're $500 off, they'll come after your ass, that's for sure. Unbelievable. Let me click on the Rumble link and show you this video does come from Benny Johnson. That's the video I shared with you. I've given him a thumbs up. I hope you do the same thing for me. All right, let's jump back here. Sheeby63 just gave me a chat. I appreciate that. Thank you so very much. Okay, let's scroll down here and see what Devory Darkins has to say. In Pritzker, dangerous order backfires as fatal shooting stuns Chicago. Let's check him out.
In today's video, JB Pritzker just got some bad news as his policy has led to another fatal outcome in the city of Chicago. Also, Democrats are screaming.
More Democrat law. I don't know what it is. Just ignoring the law. Letting the criminals have their way. You know, you steal $1.5 million. That's fine. That's fine. You can fraud the government and the taxpayers $1.5 million. That's fine. You can kill somebody, get arrested, and they'll let you back out on the street so you can kill somebody else. That's the Democrats for you.
Racism after the Supreme Court ruling yesterday, and students in the Chicago public school system will be protesting on Friday against the Trump administration. Let's start with what happened with this policy from JB Pritzker and how it became so fatal. Take a look.
A detention hearing is happening today for the man accused of killing a Chicago police officer at a hospital and critically wounding another officer. He is charged with murder and attempted murder. News Nation's Nick Smith explains why this case is renewing that national debate over cashless bail.
26-year-old Alfonso Talley was out on pretrial release for another crime when he was arrested, and some say if the judge had not granted him cashless bail, these officers would not have been shot. Police say Alfonso Talley has a long rap sheet going back to 2017. During today's hearing, prosecutors are expected to share details about this weekend's deadly hospital shooting. Talley's attorney is expected to offer what he says are mitigating circumstances. This is the officer Talley is accused of killing, 38-year-old Chicago police officer John Bartholomew, and a second officer, 57 years old and a 21-year veteran of the force, remains in critical condition after prosecutors say Talley shot him in the face. Talley was at the hospital after being arrested for robbery because police say he told them he had swallowed drugs. Police say he shot the officers when they removed his handcuffs for a CT scan. The case is fueling debate over Illinois' cashless bail system called the Safety Act. Critics saying it lets criminals out. Supporters saying it gives judges the flexibility that they need.
So where do we start as it pertains to this particular story? We start with the facts that Democrats who are in charge of public safety continue to sign off on policies that do the opposite. The governor back in 2021 signed this Safety Act, which is a very unique name, given that it's actually done the opposite, because he has created a system where judges now get to decide, are we going to keep this person in jail or are we going to let them go? And to let them go is the easy thing to do. The hard thing to do, according to the system that the governor set up, would be to keep someone who's a repeat offender for violent offenses, by the way, locked up in the jail. And as they had failed to do so because this judge had led to the killing of this police officer. Now, I want to go to the governor because, of course, he acts like everything is going according to plan. Take a look.
It's one of the great things about the Safety Act is we give the judges the ability to say, no, you're not going to get bail. You are going to stay in jail. And that is something, and also to make the decision that someone who's committed a nonviolent offense doesn't have to come up with the $500 or $1,000 or $5,000 that they might have otherwise had to get bail.
Now, the easy thing to say here is that the Safety Act.
Okay, the easy thing to say is, don't commit the crime, okay? You know what? I am 73 years old, and I've never had to come up with bail. Isn't that amazing? And it's because I've not robbed anybody, I've not beat anybody, I've not shot anybody, I've not molested anybody. You can live your life without doing that. I don't get it. You know, they act like, okay, somebody tripped and it caused a crime. You know, somebody sneezed, uh-oh, that's a crime. No. It's not an accident that happens. You willfully rob somebody. You willfully beat somebody. Assault, batter somebody. You willfully molest somebody. You willfully kill somebody or rape somebody. Okay? So if you're willfully going to do that, then you need to pay a price for it. And part of that price might be bail money to get out of jail. Okay? Or, if you're too poor to come up with bail money, don't commit the crime. What a freaking concept! Amazing!
Killed a cop. But the smart thing to say is when you build a system that treats detention as a last resort instead of a tool, you will get exactly the outcomes that the system is designed to produce. The judge in this matter definitely gets the blame, but the person behind all this is the governor because he's giving these judges too many options. There should never be an option on the table that says if someone committed a violent offense, not once, but a few times, and they're awaiting a trial for a new offense, there's no way they would get out of the jail. I don't care how much they're worth. I don't care if they're not worth anything. That has nothing to do with it. They are a flight risk. There's no reason they're on the street. To give that option to the judge is beyond me. But again, this is the way that they like to govern. They want to make things about outcomes And when they do that, they make fatal decisions. Let's go to the Cook County State's Attorney.
They ought to hold these judges accountable. This officer's family, who got murdered, should be able to retaliate against that judge that let this guy out on the street. Wrongful death. He's responsible because he let this guy out on the street. Yeah, he may not have been the one that pulled the trigger on the gun, but it's his actions that allowed him to do it. He's an accomplice. Okay? An unknowing accomplice. You know what? If you happen to take your buddy to the bank and you're sitting in the car while he goes in to cash his check and he robs the bank and comes out and jumps in the car and you guys drive off, the police stop you, you're going to jail. Not in some of these Democrat cities, but you're going to be charged as well.
Here's what she had to say.
Once again, we are reminded of what it means to take the oath to protect and serve. Officer Bartholomew took that oath and he gave his life for the city. Electronic monitoring is not an alternative to detention. It does not keep people safe. When the state's attorney's office asks for detention, we ask for detention because we believe that person presents a danger to the public. If we're not asking for detention, I don't care if they are monitored or not. They can go about their lives and get ready for trial. But if we ask for detention, we make sure that we put every bit of information in front of a judge to establish why we believe this person presents a danger. Establish that felonies. And in spite of that, he was placed on electronic monitoring. Electronic monitoring system is broken. It does not work. It is not keeping people safe. So the state's attorney's office is going to continue to ask for detention each and every time we believe someone presents a danger.
Yeah, you see, these are the type of policies that are impacting everyday Americans. There's so much that people are complaining about on social media and not focusing on the damage that's being done within their own community, like a policy that we're talking about right now. You see, in the governor's point of view, it's about wealth-based detention policies. If a person has no dollar to their name, we should give them a chance to get back on the streets because they're not going to afford to make bail. Really? So is that more important than the idea that they're a violent threat to public safety? Which one's more important? In fact, maybe that's not even the best question. Here's the better question. What is the number one responsibility of elected representatives? To keep the public safe.
At the time of the shooting, Talley, a 7-time convicted felon, was wearing an electronic monitor while awaiting trial for a 2025 carjacking. And according to court records, by March, Talley stopped coming to court and his ankle monitor has stopped transmitting. Law enforcement and some city and state officials are questioning the judge's release decision and calling for changes to the safety system. A second person is also facing criminal charges in this case. According to prosecutors, Talley's girlfriend purchased the gun Talley allegedly used in that shooting.
Okay, let's take a moment because I want to tell you about my friends at Alliance Defending Freedom.
Okay,
ADF is a court
met.
The Darkins, who legislator blaming the judge, and then you have the mayor who wants to blame everything except the actual policy. There's a true disconnect here. And there's no doubt that the legislator in Illinois has already produced bills to change this stuff, but you know it's going nowhere because this is a Democrat-run state. Now, let's go to the mayor because his excuse, I don't think it will leave you shocked, but take a listen.
A system that we are still working to repair. It's been broken for a very long time. Incidents like this challenge us to look closer into how we can have a system that works justly. And so it has to work both ways. And I'll just be very frank with you all. Look, we've had an addiction on jails and incarceration. More people get locked up in our country than anywhere else in the world. And yet we have illegal weapons that flow through our streets. And we have a lack of mental health support.
So there are really two statues here that are definitely, they definitely deserve some criticism or at least some amendments. Now, the Safety Act in and of itself has a record. 94% of people who are released before trial do not reoffend. So Democrats will celebrate that, but the 6% do. And as you can see in this story, some of these situations turn into fatal outcomes. But that's not only the issue here, it's also the electric monitoring system, which you heard the Cook County State Attorney push back on and called it broken because the numbers are in. It proves that statute in particular just does not work whatsoever. Take a look at this.
Originally a way to reduce the prison population with nonviolent offenders, it has since taken on hundreds of violent offenders. 192 are charged with gun possession. That's up more than 200% since 2016. 115 charged with murder or attempted murder. That's up more than 600%. Also, more people out charged with sex crimes and vehicular hijacking. Critics say it also allows defendants to skip their court dates without consequences. Former Cook County Circuit Court Clerk Iris Martinez wrote a letter to Cook County Board President Tony Preckwinkle last fall, claiming that 2/3 of all defendants on home monitoring did not show up for court.
How many times have I been telling you guys, the Democrats have a habit of applying policies that do the opposite of what they say the policy is supposed to do. Remember, at the national level, President Biden called it the what? The Inflation Reduction Act. What happened? Record inflation. The Safety Act. What happened? I don't know. A cop being killed, a woman being set on fire on the on the subway there. I mean, so many other countless murders, like a guy who buried his ex-girlfriend in the woods. I mean, there are more than just this story, folks. These are not one-offs. So again, it just goes to show that Democrats and their policies regarding public safety have a terrible track record. Let's go to our next update here, and we're going to stay on Democrats because the meltdowns are continuing after the Supreme Court had ruled against the Voting Rights Act, which essentially is these congressional maps that were drawn based on race, because the idea is we need to protect minority voters. But at the same time, what happens if we discriminate against non-minority voters? So the Supreme Court had no choice but to throw that out.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and pause this here and move on to Wendy Bell. Let me click on the Rumble link and show you that this video does come from Devory Darkins. It's the video I shared with you. I've given him a thumbs up. I want to make sure I got this in my, I'm going to put that in my Daily News Wrap-Up playlist so you can see the rest of this video later on tonight if you'd like. Okay, let's jump over here. Okay, here we are, the first day of May. All right, in my creator program, Rumble creator program for Rumble Studio, where I produce my videos, they have requirements for me. And if I meet these requirements, they have guidelines. If I meet these, they will promote my videos out, which means more people will get to hear no nonsense, common sense, logic, and truth. There's so much lies and propaganda out there, folks, and I try to give you the truth. No nonsense, common sense, logic, and truth. Okay, these are my requirements here. 30 hours streamed from Rumble Studio this month. 30 hours, I need to do 30 hours. So far I've got 10.1. First day of the month, I've got a third of that. Okay, total unique chatters this month. Okay, they want me to have 20 people to chat with me in the chat box. Unique chatters. So if you chat with me today, and it's great if you chat with me tomorrow, but that doesn't make you a unique chatter. Okay, so I need new people to chat with me. Right now I have 13 people watching. If I could get, I've got 2 people that's chatted with me. If I could get the rest of you chatting with me, that would put me up over 10. Okay? That put me halfway there. Rumble Premium, which I started the Rumble Premium on my video, my Daily News Wrap-Up from last night. I need 5 hours. I've got 6.3. Okay? Hours watched this month, 200. I've already got 128. 128 from people watching my video, 128 hours accumulated. total unique raids. I've raided 3 different videos this morning. When I did my extras, I need 5. I've got 3 already. So a lot of these columns will be completed by tomorrow. I hope the chatters, people will get in there and chat with me a little bit, will be up there too. So just if you could help me out, I would greatly appreciate it. You won't only be helping me out, you'll be helping others out so they can hear no nonsense, common sense, logic, and truth. Okay, let's jump back over here and see what Wendy Bell has to say with Locked and Loaded. Ooh. Okay, let's check this out. Nice little thumbnail there.
You know, it's interesting as I listen to these people on the left who are trying to talk about this jockeying for control of the House of Representatives. And the pundits want you to believe that despite all of the jazz that you and I have gone through, let's just say, we'll keep it simple, since 2020 and COVID and that election and all of the stuff that ensued after that, that after all of the stuff that you and I collectively have gone through, all of the liberties that we lost, all of the edicts and the mandates and the fraud and the corruption and the loss of a president. I mean, Joe Biden wasn't even here, for heaven's sakes. After all of that, you want to replace their House of Representatives leadership with Democrats. Are you out of your ever-loving mind? That is the dumbest thing I have heard in a long time. And we pay attention to dumb people. So that's saying something, right? They want you to believe that despite doing nothing that is good for you and doing nothing that is good for you since before Barack freaking Hussein Obama, that you are chomping at the bit, that you too have this fervent ire for Donald Trump, and that you'll do anything to resist, to take him down, and to put in your beloved Democrats who never lie to you. Oh my gosh. I want you to think about it. It was the most brilliant thing President Trump ever did. And he did it leading into the 2020 election. And he's like, look, to the black voters out there, maybe he did it leading into just 2016. He said to the black voters out there, hey, look, what do you have to lose? If you vote for me, how much worse can it get? You got a Democrat Party that tells you they care about you every 2 years, and then they bend you over and they screw you by spending money, your money, on projects that don't benefit you. They campaign off of your need. They make you feel like, oh, I need these people. And what do? They create victims and they siphon money off into projects under the guise of some idiotic do-goodery, right? Then they funnel that money back to their coffers so they can stay in power. And then when they realized, oh, snap, nobody was going to show up for Joe Biden, they had to foist upon the American people that whole, mail-in voting scam. And now Trump's cracking down on that. He's like, pass the Save America Act because it limits mail-in balloting, right? For limited reasons, you can use mail-in balloting, but we're not going to have millions upon millions of late-night ballot dumps. Democrats are screwed. Democrats know they're screwed, which is why you hear voices like this. And I want you to hear this, guy, as you consider us versus them. If you're on the fence, I don't know how I feel about politics today. Who does more for me? Who cares for me? I want you to hear Graham Plattner. This is the guy with the Nazi tattoo on his chest. It really wasn't a Nazi tattoo. I don't know, I was drunk. I fell asleep. I woke up and there it was. It was so weird. Right? Here's this guy who fancies himself Maine's next senator, running against Rhino Susan Collins. I mean, who would ever think we'd be like, vote Susan Collins, right? Listen to this guy give an interview. It's 30 seconds. He wants you to know, if you vote Democrat, this is what you're going to get for the next 2 years at a minimum. Listen.
We're the majority. We need to use the power we get to shut this White House down. We do that, I think one of the best ways is through committee hearings and investigations. I want the Trump administration not to function because everyone in the White House is being hauled under subpoena in front of a Senate committee day after day after day. Not just because, one, we have so many crimes to investigate. At this point, we could probably be doing this for the next 30 years. But two, because it's a lever of power. Using subpoena power, bringing people in for investigations, that keeps them busy.
That's what he's planning. That's what Democrats are planning. Total revenge, lawfare, legislative terrorism for the next 2 years. How does that help you guys? Does it help you pay your bills? Does it help you squirrel away money for, I don't know, your kids' braces? Does that help you pay for college? Does that help you fund your retirement? Does it pay down your debt? Does it pay off your mortgage? Does it make you more free? Does it make you happier? No. It's revenge, vindictive, evil, Marxist, typical Democrat playbook. And they think they've got it in the bag. No, they don't. They know they don't. That's scary as balls right there, okay? That scares me. To hear people like that and to have Bernie Sanders and others, oh, Grant Platt, he's the greatest guy. We need to have this. Look at LA. I want you to think about San Francisco. I want you to think about New York. What's going on there? Just watched a video of San Francisco and drug zombies. All sorts of people in frozen Mitch McConnell statue mode. Except they're all hopped up on drugs all over the street where people walk by, shooting up, frozen, barely alive. What do you have in Los Angeles? You now have some flea-borne typhoid. I'm sorry. What's wrong? What's going on in New York? Oh, you mean the socialist, communist, Marxist that you guys elected? Now all of a sudden his socialist pipeline dreams, there's not enough money for that. I'm sorry, we'd love to give you free transit. I know I ran on it. I know free daycare. I know I ran on that. It's just so expensive. And the only way for us to pay for it is to screw the rich and tax you more. So bend over, friends. And what do you have in President Trump and the Republican Party right now? You know what you have? You have a party that encourages investment and creation and manufacturing and exploration. They want you to innovate, to drill, to teach. They want to protect our borders. They want to lower our taxes. They want moral standards returned to civil American society. They believe in your personal liberty. They believe in no orders, no edicts or mandates or emergencies. The party of life, the party of opportunity, the party of freedom. There's no choice. Can you imagine? We've got big. Well, Brock, do you want to hit it now? I feel like we have to because I'm not so sure I can hold this. We got some breaking news.
Wendy Bill Radio. Breaking news.
That is the official stinger of our breaking news. Mitch McConnell breaking voting yes to move forward with the Save America Act, ladies and gentlemen. And Susan Collins feeling the breath of Nazi-loving Graham Plattner breathing down her throat. She's like, you know what? I'm kind of good for the Save America Act, too. 2 more people, you guys. If it comes down to a 50-50 split, you know what's going to happen. And the vice president is in the wings saying, call me. I'll be there. This could be the beginning of the end for the Democratic Party. When you force people to prove who they are, force them like every other country on planet Earth, show me that you're a citizen and then give me a picture of you that we can cross-reference. Thank you. How freaking complicated can that be, ladies and gentlemen? Ooh. Today is going to be good. I'm going to get all the latest information on that, what it means, if the Save America Act is actually going to come to any kind of a vote. It's already passed multiple times in the House. Everybody's looking at the Senate as, oh, by the way, the longest government shutdown in American history has finally come to an end. Why? Because the noose around the Democrats' necks is tightening. And in a unanimous vote, proving that Nancy Pelosi still has everybody's cards, the Democrats all voted to end the government shut down. Huh. It's almost like everything's kind of shaping up, isn't it? Let's dig into this. Let's talk about black voters. Because if Democrats are feeling the heat, they're going to get burned by this. Black voters liking Trump, not liking Trump. Wait for it next on the Wendy Bell Radio Network. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to throw you through that, but we'll figure out.
Okay. All right. Well, let's get up here past our advertisement about the 22-minute. Uh-oh. Wait,
that's the case.
Up.
See who else is talking about it. Get you some specificity if it comes up. It should come up. Welcome back to the Wendy Bell Radio program. You know, it's got to be so annoying to have one guy completely disrupt everything that you've been so used to doing for so many years. It must be so frustrating to have one modus operandi, and that is to screw the American people and be as deceitful as possible, to stay rich and to stay in power forever, to have one dude coming down an escalator ruin all of it. It's got to be so defeating to know that the group of voters that long ago, at least in the last several years, the Democrats have ditched in favor of illegals or trannies or whatever you want to do, fill in the blank. Black voters, they're not fooled by this, my friends. Harry Enton over at CNN, my former boyfriend who flaps his arms at the big screen, breaks down some numbers for us, and it's very interesting. He wanted to see, has black of President Trump allegations of voter suppression, or do black voters simply want what everybody else wants? Because it's not that complicated. Audio soundbite number one, they are leaning more into Trump now than they did in his first term. President Trump is freaking out the Democrats. Listen.
Yeah. I think what we're seeing right now in the numbers is President Trump and the Republican Party are chipping away at the long-term advantage that Democrats have had with black voters, with African Americans. You can see it right here. Look, Trump's approval among African Americans at this point in term one, he was at 12%. You know, he's been losing ground with a lot of people. He's gaining ground with African Americans. He's up to 16% at this point. And you say, this isn't that big of a shift. But I will tell you, Republicans absolutely love this shift that's going on because Democrats have had such a long-term advantage. The fact that he's actually gaining ground versus where he was in term number one, this has major implications for elections down the line because Democrats, especially in a lot of these tight races, you talk about places like Georgia, right down in the South, you see this type of movement for Trump actually gaining ground. This could have major ramifications and help put Republicans over the top in a number of southern places in the midterm election.
There's something pretty remarkable when you think about the black vote historically and how it's not gone to the GOP. And then you have to ask yourself why. Because the policies that I support are good for me irrespective of my skin color. And it's been that generational beating into the minds of black voters that it's the Democratic Party that cares for you. We're the ones who look out for you. We're the ones who have your back. And then you have this president who's like, how about historically black colleges and universities? Let's fund those, right? How about we do a rally in the Bronx? Why not? What do you have to lose? It's President Trump going to Harlem, going to the bodega where the guy had to kill an attacker who threatened his life. And then the New York police came to arrest him. This president is making specific inroads with the black community because they want what we want. And Harry's audio soundbite number two says, he says, since President Trump's first term, the number of black voters who affiliate as Democrats has dropped by double digits. This is the scary stuff for the left.
I see this as absolutely part of a bigger trend. Donald Trump's Republican Party is absolutely gaining ground, not just him gaining in terms of his approval rating, but look at the party ID margin, Kate, because this to me was absolutely stunning. Look at this party ID margin among African Americans. At this point in Trump term number one, Democrats had a 63-point advantage. That has absolutely fallen. Look at where it is now. A double-digit shift away. Democrats, of course, still have the advantage, but it's a 12-point shift to the Republican Party. And I look back through Gallup's records. They sent me their records. And this, in fact, lead that Democrats have is actually smaller than any lead from 2006 to 2021. So Democrats are leading. But again, we're talking about chipping away. Republicans are chipping away at this long-term advantage that Democrats have had among African Americans. We see it in terms of Trump's approval rating, and we even see it to a wider degree among the party ID margin, where all of a sudden there are a number of African Americans who are walking away from the Democratic Party and a number of them who are walking into the Republican tent.
Wow. Democrats now have the smallest lead, though it's still significant, with black voters than at any point in the last 20 years. So how does that impact the midterm elections? Listen.
So you see this right here. You see this 51-point advantage that Democrats have, significantly less than you see that 63-point advantage. And what we will note was back in 2024, right, Donald Trump put in a historically strong performance among African Americans. Democrats performed the worst in a generation. Have they gained any of that coalition back from where they fell down to in 2024? But take a look here. Okay. Choice for election among African Americans. Kamala Harris was leading amongst that group in the pre-election polling by 63 points. Are Democrats gaining back any of that ground? It's a 62-point advantage now. Republicans are holding on to the gains that they made among African Americans in 2024. Republicans are gaining among African Americans. They are chipping away at that long-term advantage. The Donald Trump-led Republican Party is making gains among African Americans that we simply put have not seen the Republican Party make in a generation.
And the hardest part for the Democrat Party is they've been hijacked. And because they didn't have the stones, they got co-opted. And they have now jumped off of the left cliff. I don't know, but I'm going to go with traditional black families are no different than traditional white families or Asian families. You know why? We don't want mobile abortion clinics. We don't want transgender mutilation. We don't want boys playing girls' sports. We don't want any of your crazy. And that's all the Democrats are selling. President Trump is saying, what have you got to lose? Nothing. And that's resonating all across this country. When we come back on the Wendy Bell radio program, President Trump tells Senate Republicans, don't be stupid. What? Oh, yeah, deserved. Next on the Wendy Bell Radio Network.
Yeah, they are being stupid. Amazing. Okay, let me click on this Rumble link, and I will include this video in my daily news wrap-up tonight so that you can see the rest of this. This video, as you can see, after clicking the Rumble link, brings us over here, Wendy Bell Radio. This is the video I shared with you. I am following her channel. I've given her a thumbs up. I hope you do the same thing for me. Okay, let me jump back over here and remind you folks I need some chats. I've got three chats tonight, but I've got 14 people watching. If I could get somebody to just give me a chat, say hi, a thumbs up in the chat box, whatever, just chat. That would be fantastic. Here, let me show you. Chat. Okay. Alrighty. Hi, Deb Brandt. Thank you very much. Hi, Foxy Grandma. I appreciate that. Oh, thank you so much. That helps out so very much. I really appreciate it. Okay. Let me jump over here. And there's Foxy Grandma and Deb Brandt. Thank you so much. Let me slide down here, close this out, and remind you folks that these videos that I've shared with you are videos that come directly from the producers. I've got the links to the videos right here in the description box. Also, the links to the producer's channel if you want to go check them out and see what other information they might have. Okay? They all have no nonsense, common sense, logic, and truth. That's what I'm pushing here, folks. Ever since that 2020 election, I've been doing this, pushing out the truth, the propaganda, to counteract the propaganda of the mainstream media the deep state swamp, the Democrats and the rhinos. I'm trying to counteract that and give people the truth so they can make maybe an educated decision, not a decision based on lies and bullshit. Okay, let me remind you folks that the videos that I have shared with you are videos that I post on Mertech.com. I update this site multiple times a day, every day, to keep you up to date with fresh information that's being posted out there, so you can know what's actually going on and not have to rely on the lies and propaganda. Now, I've got over 40 videos here on my website, and it's a free site. The link is in the description box. I'd like to share all this information with you, but unfortunately, I just don't have the time to do so, and that's why I've put together my Mertech Daily News Wrap-Up, okay? It says I have 27 videos in here. Right here's the Devory Darkins video that I added to that, so you can see the rest of that. We're about halfway through it. Wendy Bell Radio, we're going to pick up where we took off. Vance from the Bongino Report, he has some great information today. In fact, I did an extra with his information. X22 Report, We the People News, Anthony Brian Logan, Liberty Sentinel with Alex Newman, Benny Johnson, Black Conservative Perspective, another Devory Darkins video, also McWater's Effect, News for Reasonable People, Robert Govea talking about Comey surrenders to court for criminal charges. I like his information because he gets right down to the actual court documents, which are the truth. What's in those court documents you can't dispute, although a Democrat would, but he goes through them and tells you what's in there and what it's all about. He has great information. The Rubin Report, the Steve Gruber Report, talking about the institutions become weaponized. And we know Steve Day's show. I've got 10 or 11 hours worth of fantastic information in here, but go ahead and take a break right now. Grab a cup of coffee and a donut, or a sandwich and a soft drink, or a beer, or a nice glass of wine and some cheese, and meet me back here in about 15 or 20 minutes so I can get this set up in Rumble Studio, and we'll get this going for you. But in the meantime, I do want to thank you for being with me. Hopefully, I'll get to see you again later. Don't forget to chat. If you come and watch my daily news wrap-up, chat in there as well. I've got 21 people watching right now, and I've got like 5 different people that have chatted, so if you can jump in there with another chat with a thumbs up or a hi or a bye or thumbs down or whatever, doesn't matter, just get in the chat box and give me some information. But at any rate, I do want to thank you for being here. Hopefully I'll get to see you again later, and may God bless.